Hey everyone, Ryan Young, Kama Jiu-Jitsu. I hope you're doing well. So, question I just got asked. How much time, or maybe what's a ratio of, you think of my total time doing Jiu-Jitsu, how much time should I be spending drilling versus, say, rolling? And how many days a week should I train? Well, how many days a week, first of all, that's the easier one to tackle. That one just has to do with your schedule. Your schedule, and if you're older, you're probably gonna spend less time training than somebody who's younger who can recoup faster. Or even someone who's on steroids. You recover fast when you're on steroids. From what I hear. I've never been on any, but wow, I don't know, what do people take these days? I guess we could do that one for a topic too as well. I'll find out later. Let me do my research. And so as far as training, really, if you want to get proficient and you want to do it over a regular amount of time, figure on about 2 to 3 times a week that you're training to learn. Don't count rolling. Rolling doesn't count because most people don't learn a lot when they're rolling. Rolling is more for fun. Rolling is more just to kind of, let me see what I've learned and let me kind of compare with somebody else. Whether I'm making progress versus a particular person. When you're training, meaning doing your hard drilling, right? We do more drilling than we actually do rolling. In fact, the typical class, I don't even know if we actually roll within the last 5 or 10 minutes of class, where I'll say, hey guys, if you want to just go ahead and just start rolling. Most of the time class is over by then, and the instructor's sticking around for a little while, and then people kind of get together and kind of roll at that point. That's more of a, after class is when it gets done. And the reason why is because when you're drilling is when you're getting your repetitions in. If you're doing your 1, 2, 3, 400th armbar choke, and getting to the point where you're doing it on different people under different levels of resistance, and the only way you get good at something is if you see it over and over. But if you just do it 5, 10 times and say, okay, I'm good, and then go on and do something else, then you'll never get good at it. So if you're given a choice, or if time is limited, you need to make sure that you spend that time drilling something. And the way you get good at it, drilling it, is you start off the first few times doing it at a relatively easy pace with very little resistance. And as you get it, you have your partner dial up the resistance. 20% resistance, 50% resistance, 75, and then don't let me have it, right? And then if it gets to a point where you're telling your partner not to let you get it, and you cannot get it, okay, can you dial it down a little bit? Just a little bit. I'm not getting it. Your defense is too good. Then have him dial it down and then try to get it. If you can get it on him at that rate, let's say 90%, then say, okay, don't let me get it this time. And that's how you kind of dial in your ability to get something. And that's how you get good at something. You don't get good rolling. And I see this so many times. I see guys that have been training for years and years and years, but most of their time is spent rolling. And they just don't have a good fundamental knowledge of the need to know concepts, right? It's not how much time you spent rolling, it's about how high quality the time you have been training is. And unfortunately, people seem to think it's easy, where you come in and you just learn a few things and then you roll. And it's not that easy. You need to be on a methodical system of learning, and you need to check boxes off in what you're learning, and you need to be honest about when you check that box off. Do I really have the choke from the closed guard down? And even if you check that box off, that doesn't mean that you're not going to come back to it, because you're checking it off at your current level, and then you're moving on to something else that you're not as proficient at, versus this choke from the guard. You're going to do choke from the mount. You're going to do choke from the back, choke from whatever position, in addition to the arm bars or triangles, all the other submissions that you do. Or it could be getting out of mount. I can get out of one person's mount, but I can't get out of another person's mount. Does that mean that I don't practice getting out of mount? Of course not. Or what if I can choke everybody except for this one particular person with this one choke? Does that mean that that choke is good? Maybe. But it could also mean that maybe that choke is not a good choke and that I could get on everybody but that person. I can use that last person as the barometer on whether or not that choke is an effective choke, because some chokes are not as good as other chokes. Some chokes are basically foolproof if you can get it down. Other chokes just leave a lot of gaps. I'll give an example. You know, if you're mounted, doing a regular cross collar choke from the mount or from the north-south versus, say, a baseball bat choke. Baseball bat chokes work, but they're not quite as unbeatable as a well sunk in cross collar choke. I'll take a cross collar choke sunk in any day over a baseball bat choke sunk in, because there is that little window of opportunity to get out on a baseball bat choke, whereas when you get a straight cross collar choke from the mount or from the north-south, it's much harder to get out. So, you know, but then I'll say, well, you know, I'm always able to get the baseball bat choke on people, but I can't get it on Dave. Well, then I have to think to myself, well, is it really worth knowing if I can't get it on Dave? I want something that I can get on Dave as well, for example, right? You know, the best person that I know. If it works on the best person I know, then in my world, it works 100% of the time, until I find somebody who beats it. And then once they beat it, there's one of two things. Either I did something wrong and I need to adjust that, or the technique is flawed. And I can't tell you how many times I'd be working on something here in Texas, and I see Dave. I say, Dave, check this out. And I'll do it on him, and he'll go, eh. And I go, what does that mean? And he'll go, if I just move this way, then you don't have it. You mean to tell me all that time I spent working on it? But I think to myself, you know what, that's actually a good thing, because then I don't have to waste my time on it anymore, right? But you can bet that I was spending a lot of time in my training, right, figuring out that, or just trying to get better at something Dave's given me to work on. Now, if I'm rolling, I may be able to work on it, I may not. So today I was rolling and with some of the students, and I didn't choke anybody, I just got arm bars. Whereas most of the time, I'm always going for chokes. Now, was this today armbar day? I don't know. It's just what I saw and I took, and I figured I'll just keep taking arm bars. And there are other days where, you know, the first thing that's available to me is a choke, and I'll just choke everybody that day. But my thing is, I need to work on everything. I need to work on it, work on it, work on it, and to get better at it. And you know, these arm bars I took, they weren't easy. I mean, they were hard. I was having to think a little bit while it was happening, which is good because I haven't done arm bars in a while. And this type of, you know, this wasn't just rolling. You know, we were trying to get each other. You know, whereas with rolling, it's kind of just for fun. But you know, we've got some guys that are going to be competing in the Hicks and Gracie tournament, Hicks and Gracie Cup, over in Arlington, Texas. So I'm not sure when this video comes up. It really just depends on Rusty. But that's what we're here at the studio for on a Saturday night. Was just to kind of work on that kind of stuff. You know, if you want a ratio of how much time should you be training, meaning drilling, you know, it's just something that you need to repeat over and over and over, versus rolling, at least 3 to 1. So for every 3 hours that you're drilling, you do an hour of rolling. It's not the other way around. It's not. I mean, at least in my opinion, and it's just mine. You know, every other instructor will have a different opinion. You know, I know other instructors that probably think about, you know, things the other way around. You know, they'll roll 3 hours for every hour that they're training and drilling, because to them rolling is more important, and rolling with a wide variety of people. And you know, we generally don't use a clock. I mean, we have a clock. I mean, I still don't know how to use it. So I just use my phone. But, you know, we spent a lot of money on that clock. Because, you know, I just like people to go until they get caught. Because timer is nice. I mean, like I said, we're preparing for a tournament. We're not always in tournament mode. We don't have a tournament coming up every month. Although last month we did have one for 2 of our members. But this coming next week, when we have the Hicks and Gracie Cup, we'll have about 7 or 8, maybe more, people competing, because it's Hickson's tournament. Dave will be in town for that, so it'll be kind of a good thing for all of us. So make sure that when you're training, you spend more time training and drilling, and hard drilling, versus rolling. Reserve the rolling time for the weekend day, you get together with some friends on a Saturday morning. Hey, what are you doing? Nothing. Hey, why don't you come over? Let's go train. You know, do it for that. But when you're in class, make sure you get all your drilling done and make sure you spend all that time that you're in class with your professor there, making sure you're perfecting what you're doing. Then that way you'll, believe me, you will learn a lot faster that way. You don't want to be that 10, 12 year guy training who just can't hang, because technically, and I'm not talking about versus conditioning. You know, you're talking with a young kid versus you, maybe young kid meaning like a 19 or 20 year old who's been training since he was 5 versus, you know, you who's 40 years old and you can't keep up with him. You know, don't worry about that. But, you know, technically you want to be able to keep up with anybody, and, you know, let your body, you know, your body, your age or whatever, let that be your weak link, but don't let your technique be the weak link. You know, that way you can just say, you know, I tried my best and, you know, I just couldn't get it done. But, you know, there's no excuse for training that long and being left behind technically. And that's the one thing that I don't want to see happen to my students. So that's one of the reasons why I'm very diligent about making them stick to the plan and not giving them too much to work on too quickly. I mean, I don't hide anything from anyone, but I do tell them that there's a certain time at which you need to learn it, and there are certain times that you need to just kind of wait till you're ready to learn it. But, you know, that was a long answer to a short question, but, you know, hopefully, you know, this kind of helps you in when you're thinking, you're trying to evaluate, you know, do I want to roll, or do I want to just go and move on the side and just kind of work on one thing and one thing only? You know, choose that one instead. Anyway, that's all I got for you. Take care. Happy training. Bye now.